What causes high inflammatory markers in blood tests? If you've recently had blood work done and you were told that you had high inflammation, you may have found yourself asking this very question. If that's you, then you are in the right place. Not only am I here to answer that question in today's video, but I'm going to give you some proven solutions that not even your medical doctor will mention. Let's jump right on in. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause, Chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to go over the number one biggest lie when it comes to inflammatory markers that not even your medical doctor has any idea about. Then we'll cover what actually causes high inflammatory markers in your blood. If you know the cause, then you will know the cure. And finally, I will be sharing with you the most common mistake you're unknowingly making that leads to high inflammatory markers in your blood tests. Let's dive right on in. What is the number one biggest lie when it comes to those inflammatory blood markers in the tests? It has to do with the ranges. So here's something that not even your medical doctor, most of them do not know about. Maybe if your doctor is seasoned, shall we say, has been around for decades and has held on to old labs from patients and maybe actually looks at them from time to time. Maybe they have an inkling of an idea, but for the most part, especially new docs coming out, have no idea about the information I'm going to share with you. And in fact, I was doing a health challenge and I had several different medical professionals, both doctor to lab technicians to nurses, and none of them knew the information I'm about to share with you. So what is it about the ranges? And what am I talking about? Okay, so first of all, you had labs done potentially, okay? And you had maybe a C-reactive protein, a CRP. That is one of the inflammatory markers that doctors, if they are going to run something for inflammation, that's one of the common ones that they will test. The other one is the ESR, the SED rate is the other way to describe that. Now, when you get your lab work back, you're hoping you don't see anything that says it's high or it's low. If it's high or it's low, what that means is it's outside of the clinical reference range, which normally when you're looking at your lab work is that set of numbers, if they gave it to you, on the right-hand side. It's a range. It's either known as the clinical reference range or the standard range. It's a range. The question is, do you know how they determine that reference range? Well, I'm going to share that with you, okay? The way that's determined is they take the average result for the average population and they create a range for it. Now, let me ask you a question. Have Americans gotten healthier over the last 50, even 30 years? You can drop your answer down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about this. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you another question. Who gets blood work done more frequently? Healthy people or sick people? Go ahead and drop that response down in the comments too. If you said that Americans have not gotten healthier over the decades, you are correct. And if you also answered that sick people are the people who have blood work done more frequently, you are also correct. Why does that matter and what does that mean? Ultimately, what that means is that this clinical reference range is based off of a sick population. It's changed. If you look at these reference ranges, like if you could get your hands on old lab work from 40 years ago, you would see a significant difference in the ranges they were using then compared to the ranges we are using now. Now, why does this matter? Let's take the inflammatory marker. We'll use CRP, and I don't have these ranges memorized, but the illustration is accurate. So go with me, okay? Inflammation, you don't want it in your body. We know that inflammation is the root cause of all disease and illness. So the goal is to have an inflammatory marker of 0. That means there's no inflammation. So of 0 or as close to 0 as we possibly can be. Well, 40 years ago, the reference range was, say, 0 to 8. So if you got your blood test back and your marker was at a 14, you had significant inflammation that was more than likely chronic in your body. That was a major problem. It was way outside of the clinical range. Well, guess what? That range now has been skewed. It's from 0 to 30. So now if your marker came back at a 14, you look like you're doing a good job because you're smack dab right there in the middle. But you're not. You're incredibly inflamed. But what has happened is because everybody around us is more commonly inflamed than not, that's considered normal. Just because something is common never means it's normal. But unfortunately, that's how our labs are determined. So the other side of this means that also, in order for any indication to occur in traditional medicine, our standard of care, the way that we are doing things here in America, in order for the doctor to understand that there is a problem, you have to be in a more advanced state of that sickness. So sticking with inflammation, in order for them to see that you have a problem with inflammation, you have to be even more inflamed, almost like 200% more inflamed than what you would have been 300 years ago for them to recognize there was a problem. The earlier you detect a problem, the easier it is to fix it. So here is what nobody knows. This is the biggest lie when it comes to inflammatory markers. Basing things off of the clinical reference ranges the way they are today is not accurate enough. Okay? Just know when it comes to inflammation, you better hope you're as close to zero as you possibly can be. Okay? Because inflammation, like I said, is part of the root cause of all disease and illness. And the way that labs are determined and those reference ranges have been determined is they're allowing you to be in a more inflamed state before they're trying to basically intervene. And that's okay, because if you come to somebody like me, we're going to intervene long before that ever even happens. And if you're concerned about that, if you see your inflammatory marker is reaching the other end, the high end, you have a lot of inflammation. You're just not sick enough yet for them to be able to tell you that there's a problem. Stick with me, because the rest of this video, I'm going to share with you what you can do to actually get a grip of that, okay? Now, I'm really, really curious. Did you have any idea that that's how those reference ranges were determined and that they've changed that much over the decades? Let me know down in the comments below, because again, I'm always very intrigued to know if this is new information, if it's old. I'm hoping that there's a shift and people have more understanding of this and that I'm not the only one that's talking about it. But even if I am, I want to have feedback from you, because this is about you. This is about me providing value for you in these videos I'm creating. And in order for me to know that I'm on the right track and this is working for you, I need that feedback. So awesome. Thank you so much for commenting down below. Let's get into what causes high inflammation. Well, there's a lot of different factors that can lead to inflammation. So I'm just going to kind of list some of these out, and then we're going to get to what can you actually do about this. Okay. So chronic or acute types of health problems, infections, inflammation, all that can increase inflammatory markers. Certain medications that are supposed to be managing your symptoms, not necessarily fixing the problem, because that's not how medication works, actually can create more inflammation in the body. Exposure to irritants or different foreign materials that the body just can't easily eliminate will increase inflammation. And that's in your air, that's in your water, that's in your food. It's in a lot of the products that we use around our homes for our hygiene and cleaning and laundry, taking care of the yard. Our environment is the most toxic environment we've ever seen. We're being exposed to a lot. Absolutely can be a contributing factor to why an inflammatory marker came back high. Also, recurrent episodes of acute inflammation, which is short-lived inflammation that then becomes chronic, can be a contributing factor to that too. I gave you a short list right here because I'm more interested in sharing with you how you can prevent inflammation. And we're going to get into diet, because there are aspects about diet that absolutely can cause inflammation. But before I get into the most common mistakes you're unknowingly making that lead to high inflammation in your body, I just want to take a moment and remind you to click that subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on, and hey, while you're down there, give me a big thumbs up and like this video if you're enjoying what you've been learning so far. I really appreciate that, and it helps you not miss out on a future episode. I am regularly producing videos for you to help you be able to take back control of your health and achieve what I like to call total body mastery. So again, just click the subscribe button down below, turn the notifications on, and give me a big thumbs up if I'm doing a good job for you. Thanks so much, guys. Okay, what are the most common mistakes you're unknowingly making that lead to high inflammation in the body? As I was alluding to in the last topic, a lot of this has to do with the foods you're eating, okay? So what I want to share with you first are the mistakes you're making, because we've been taught these foods are healthy, or we trust our Food and Drug Administration more than maybe what we should, or we reach for things out of convenience, not being fully aware of what's actually in those foods. So the best way to cause inflammation in your body via food that you're consuming is sugar. Sugar is like fire starter to a fire. It inflames everything, and literally you can think of inflammation as fire within the body. Doesn't look like a good picture. You're not supposed to have fires all over your body. Body does not function well when it's inflamed. Okay? Something to give a little bit more insight of what I'm going to share with you right now. The other foods that we're consuming in high amounts because we were taught that these are healthy for us, that cause a lot of inflammation in the body, are grains. Not just gluten, but grains, all of them. Now hear me out. I know this is where people are like, mic drop, like I'm out of here. I don't want to hear anything more about this because what else am I supposed to eat? And let me tell you, there's plenty of food to eat. Okay. But let me explain this. This has to deal with the glycemic index. Now, that index is a measurement of how high does a food spike your blood sugar. We've realized that when we spike blood sugar high, we cause inflammation. Okay. So this all came online back in the day of sugar busters, if you remember that. If you're old enough, it all pertained to managing type 2 diabetes and how do you get control over your blood sugar levels. If you avoided high glycemic index foods, you were going to be doing a better job. These are all foods that spike blood sugar high. So it's ranked from like 0 to about 100. The closer you get to 100, the worse and more detrimental, more inflammatory producing food it is. So sugar comes in at about a 68. All your gluten-containing grains come in at about a 70. All of your non-gluten, your gluten-free grains come in at about a 72 or higher. So they're actually more stressful and better at creating inflammation than sugar. That's frightening. But there's more, okay? Sorry to stomp on parades and such, but you need to know this information, okay? We've been taught that whole grains are really good for us. And we should have whole grains at every single meal. They're good for your heart. They're good for, digestion, all this stuff. And there are elements of that are true. Whole grains do have more nutrient value to them than their refined grains, because in the refined grains, all of the components of the grain that held the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals and any benefit you could get from them are stripped away. However, when we look at, is it stressful to the body or not? Is it capable of producing inflammation or not? We would think that the refined grains actually are worse for us. But there's something else called glycemic load. And this isn't about how high does the blood sugar go, but how long does it stay spiked for. The longer your blood sugar stays spiked for, the more stressful it is on the body. And when the body is stressed, its inherent response is inflammation. Your whole grains don't spike the blood sugar quite as high as the refined version, but it keeps it spiked high for longer because they take longer to digest. We used to think that this was good for us, but we learned that no, actually it's more stressful on the body. Now, am I saying completely cut out all grains? No, I'm just saying don't have them at every single meal, and maybe don't have that be the majority of what you consume. We were taught now for decades that 60% of your calories should be coming from carbohydrates, and majority of those should be grains. Wrong. It's not good. Carbohydrates. Lots and lots of carbohydrates. High carbohydrate diets, not just high sugar diets, but high carbohydrate diets provoke inflammation because of what I just shared with you. Okay? So the people I work with, my suggestion, if we're really working at reducing inflammation, is we go to lower carbohydrate diets. Like 20% of what you're consuming or less should be from carbohydrates. And I always emphasize from vegetable sources, predominantly the ones that grow above the ground, not below the ground. Below the ground's fine, but maybe you just have those more a couple of times a week because they are loaded with carbohydrates too. Maybe have grains once a week or work your way towards that and have that be like your cheat meal. We do cheat meals. You do not have to eat perfectly in order to eliminate inflammation. Okay. But you do need to eat perfectly about 80 to 90% of the time. Then your body can tolerate the 10 to 20% that you cheat, or some social event comes up, or you're celebrating a birthday, whatever the case may be, so you can still live life. But if you really want to work at reducing inflammation, this is the first place to start. Other foods we know that provoke inflammation because they're just awful for us to eat are all the things you shouldn't be eating. Your processed foods, prepackaged foods. When you go out and you eat at restaurants or fast food joints, you have no control over the quality of food that they are giving you or the other components or ingredients that they're using to prepare that food for you. So there's more risk involved with eating outside of your home. It's not to say you can't do it. but just don't do it every single day. When you're at the grocery store, shop in the perimeter minus the bakery. The only aisle that you should be going down when it comes to food-related stuff is where your fats and your oils are. That will be so helpful. Everything else in the aisles is questionable because it's all packaged, prepackaged, prepared for you. Look at your ingredients. Start creating awareness about what has a ton of carbohydrates and what has a ton of sugars in it. And if you start reducing that, I promise you will start decreasing your inflammation. Now, if you're sitting there wondering, oh my gosh, Kelly, what on earth am I supposed to eat now? Like, you just took everything away from me. And don't worry, you're not the only one. I've had this happen to me for, a long time, like a decade and a half, ever since I opened up a clinic and started talking this way with my patients. I've lived this way since 15. This is part of what gave me back my life when I was a super sick kid on medications, passed from one specialist to the next, told I had to have surgery with no guarantee that that was going to take care of my problem. This is a component of what actually gave me back my life. And for you, to help guide you, I have created a full body reset meal plan. All you need to do to access it is go down to the description right below this video, click on the description so it expands out. Scroll down, look for where it says free 7-day full body reset meal plan. Click on that link. All you have to do is put your email in so I know where to send your free meal plan. And in this meal plan, I created a meal plan that honestly is something that's doable. You do not have to cook every day. It's perfect for people who are busy or people who just don't really want to cook every day, or maybe just don't like cooking but know that they really need to in order to be healthy. And then I've also included your grocery shopping list so that you can easily check things off on Instacart, or when you get to the grocery store, you already know what you have at your house and all that you need left to create these delicious recipes that don't take many ingredients and definitely don't take a whole lot of time in order to start eating your way to less inflammation and higher levels of health. I hope that this video has been really insightful and has light bulbs going on, created more questions, and have you wanting to come back for more. I appreciate your time and thank you so much for being here. God bless, and we'll see you on a future episode.